So the question is, how do I find a biblical church? Now, the question that this person sent me was, how do I find a biblical church? It seems impossible in this day and age to find a church that is actually a true church. Now, this is a great question, but in my opinion, I believe the more important question here, before I can even get to the primary question, is, are you a true believer? Have you truly been saved? Now, the reason this question is important is because your view of a biblical church is always indicative of whether or not you have a biblical mindset. And what I mean is, now in the past, I have given people the link to my church, the address to my church, so that they can check it out and watch for themselves. On my church website, you can watch sermons from my pastor. And you know what some people have said to me after they've reviewed my church website and they've even visited? One person said, a lady, she said, your church is okay, but I need a church that talks more about the gifts and has more energy, like dancing and stuff. That's my kind of church. Now, see, that person is lost. And spiritually, she's incapable of knowing what a biblical church is. And that's why I bring that up. Because I can show you where a biblical church is. But if you're not sound biblically, you're not going to be able to appreciate that, and nor will you want to be there. Now, here's another important point. What you need to understand is, if God has saved you and called you to church fellowship, because if he has saved you, he has called you to church fellowship. And he has. 1 John 1:7 makes that clear, along with the slew of other verses. If that's true, then you don't, listen to me, don't you think that if God has called you to something, that he would actually make it possible? And that's one thing I had to come with gripes to. I had to analyze my own thoughts about seeking a new church and come to understand that this is true. That if God has called you to something in Christ, that he would make it a way possible. He would make it possible. Okay. Before I was at the church that I'm at now, I did belong to another church, and that church was extremely seeker friendly. It was, from a sermon perspective, the preaching there was weak. It was watered down. It was so seeker friendly that it made me sick. It got to the point where I'm literally in church service saying to myself, "Why am I here? This is pointless. It's ridiculous." I don't want to go into what the sermons were like. It just wasn't good, and so I left. And I began my search for a church I could actually call home. And after a few months, I felt like this is pointless because I couldn't find anything. And then I realized that I'm not going to find this church. I need to take this to the Lord. And so what I did was I began incorporating my hunt for a biblical church in my daily prayers every single day. I prayed to the Lord. I made my request known to the Lord. After about 3 months of consistent praying, I had a subscriber email me, and this man didn't even live in Wisconsin, and he gave me a list of churches that were near me, or in surrounding cities and towns. And I started to literally go down the list. It was like 7 churches, and I went down the list. I reviewed each one of them. Went to their church website. I visited the church. I called the church. And I narrowed it down to 2 churches. And after about 3 weeks, I determined that the church I'm at now was the church. And what was interesting was the church that I'm at now, I used to pass this church every day. The job that I had before the job I'm at now, I used to pass this job every day on my way to work. And I never knew it was there. Never knew it was there. This glorious, God-honoring, beautiful church was right there. And my eyes never even looked to it. The building was always there. I just never looked at it. And that's what I mean. Okay? That church is somewhere. That church that you're looking for is somewhere. This is why you need to take your requests to the Lord. Seek the Lord in this. I truly trust that if you are indeed a true born-again believer in Christ, that there is a local body somewhere near you. Okay. Now, this local body may be somewhere where you may have to move to. Some people have to move to the churches. Okay. So I end by saying, trust the Lord and let your request be made, and He will answer you. Okay, Philippians 4:6. Now, if you have any questions further, or you want to go a little deeper into this, you can always leave a comment on this video, or you can hit me by email.